Hey guys, it's Kevin here, and I want to welcome you to another Teaching in Asia video. Thanks for stopping by to find out a little more about teaching private lessons in Korea, in Japan. Now, it is a very rainy day here in Japan, and at the time that I'm filming this, actually we're expecting a typhoon to come, so it's going to get a lot rainier very soon. Now, a lot of people hear that when you come to South Korea or Japan, there's a lot of money to be made teaching private lessons. And although that can be true sometimes, there can also be risks in teaching private lessons. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take it country by country, because both Korea and Japan have very different kind of rules about this. Legalities, one might even say. I'm going to start with Korea. Now, the way it works in South Korea, when you come to Korea to work as an English teacher, you get something called an E2 visa. Now, when you have an E2 visa, the school that initially hires you and brings you to Korea is your sponsor. And legally, according to immigration laws, you can only work for that one company. So basically, by teaching private lessons, you're breaking the law. If people do it, you better believe it. You may be approached by parents whose children you teach at a school. That's right. The offers are wide and varied. There's a lot of people very keen to have you teach them private lessons if they're adults. There's a lot of parents out there who are keen to have you teach their children private lessons. You may be approached in convenience stores by people. You may be approached just while walking down the road sometimes. That all happened to me. So what happens if you get caught teaching private lessons when you're on an E2 visa? Well, if you're caught by immigration, big things might happen. Big, bad things. Basically, you could be deported. That's right. You could be sent packing from Korea, and I think basically you're not allowed to come back to Korea for 5 years. Now, when I lived in Korea, I actually met a guy one time while I was on a visa run to Japan who had been caught by immigration officials, busted, while going to teach some morning private lessons in Gangnam in Seoul. Basically, the way he was caught was through a stakeout. Old-fashioned police work. Immigration officials knew that often foreigners would teach illegal private lessons at large companies in Gangnam and other places early in the morning on business days. So what the immigration officials would do is they would just stake out major train stations like Gangnam Station, and they'd wait until they saw a foreigner who looked like an English teacher. Then they'd follow that foreigner to the company where they were teaching the class. They would follow them inside, and then boom, bust them and find the company too, I believe. Could be wrong on the company finding things. So, teaching privates in Korea. Lots of people do it. And normally you would never be caught, but there is a risk, so beware. I'm not endorsing anything here. Just beware. Now, teaching privates in Japan is a very different matter. A work visa in Japan is very different than a work visa in Korea, because the way the system works here in Japan, where I am right now, is that work visas are portable. What that means is that a company may sponsor you to get a visa, but once you get the visa, that visa is your visa. And you keep that visa and you can move around. Now, that's not always specifically the case. Sometimes there may be differences depending on your situation. A lot of people do teach private lessons here in Japan as well, and it's a pretty normal thing to do. Now, of course, why does immigration not want you to teach private lessons? Well, it's because it's an under-the-table economy. You're making money and you're not being taxed. The government's not getting anything for it. They're not profiting. How much can you make? Well, it can be a pretty lucrative endeavor. You can charge $30, $40, sometimes $50, $60 an hour, depending on your customers. I've even met private English teachers who are married to a national on a marriage visa who make 6 figures a year teaching English privately. So there you go, guys. There's just a little bit of basic information about teaching private lessons in South Korea and Japan. Now, of course, what I say is not legally binding. If something goes wrong, don't hold my feet to the fire. Alright guys, thanks for watching another episode of Teaching in Asia. You can of course check out my blog, kobekevin.blogspot.com, links below. You can also follow me on Twitter, link is below.